Hi guys, Elliot here. I'm delighted to be doing my first video for the OCD recovery channel. So yeah, hopefully you guys can take some value from this video and apply it to your own recovery. So yeah, I've always had OCD, but I first fell into the cycle of OCD in 2015. I had a messy breakup with my ex-girlfriend and I just didn't want to date anymore. I was really sad, really upset. And this was the catalyst for me falling into a cycle of sexual orientation OCD or HOCD. I quickly became consumed with the thoughts and the fact that I might be gay. I had loads of intrusive thoughts, like sexual thoughts about people of the same sex as me. Just got absolutely consumed with the worry that I may be gay because I just didn't want to date. I was like so distraught about the breakup and, you know, getting your heart broken as a teen. It just latched so hard. And yeah, I just went into a point where I was checking my sexuality so many times a day. I was watching pornography, I was taking gay tests, I was asking my family and like my best friend whether they thought I was gay or not. I avoided looking at guys. I just couldn't look at them in the eye. It was, looking back, it was just so silly. I genuinely just couldn't. I'd be having a conversation with someone and I'd just be looking at the ground like that. I'd be at work as well trying to speak to clients and I just couldn't look at them, and one of them even actually called me rude and I just thought, what on earth is going on here? I was just consuming this cycle 24/7. Couldn't stop thinking about it. Completely sabotaged my life, my relationships, my libido. Like, I just wanted to stay in bed all day. Like, I had no life structure. And yeah, it was just really hard. I felt like I was living a lie. I felt like I just wasn't straight. I was just looking in the past constantly about, you know, my sexual relationships, thinking how can this be true? I knew something wasn't right here. I knew something was wrong. And yeah, I just started seeing a therapist. I knew that it wasn't normal to start with. I know it's obviously really hard to tell whether it is OCD, and obviously you can't work that out. As you get further along the recovery journey, it doesn't really matter. But just doing all these things, being completely consumed, I just knew that there was something wrong. So I went to go to see a therapist, as a CBT therapist. And to be fair, she taught me one or two things. It was quite handy, but looking back, lots of reassurance being given. I was still performing compulsions, still like not recovering really. OCD had the upper hand. It was just completely latched, wasn't giving me any breathing space. And yeah, I didn't really get anywhere. At the same time, I was still having all these obsessions. It was taking a terrible toll on my body. I was suffering from IBS. I had really bad stomach problems. My gut lining was just completely eroded, like all the anxiety pumping away. I had really bad heart troubles as well. I was having like tachycardias and palpitations. I was constantly being wired up to Holter monitors and echocardiograms, that sort of thing. My heart was just fluttering so bad. Had lots of backaches, wasn't really sleeping. And yeah, in the end, it just got worse and worse because there was physical anxiety symptoms now accompanying the obsessions. So I was also locked in a fear cycle as well as having the obsessions. And yeah, I just seemed to be getting worse. The CBT taught me one or two things, as I said, but it wasn't quite getting there. And being the classic OCD sufferer, I was hunting out a quick fix. So I went to try and do hypnotherapy, and looking back, that was just a complete waste of money and a waste of time. Obviously, there's no quick fix in OCD. If that was the case, then, you know, Rob's page wouldn't be there. It'd be like, click your fingers, you'd be better, but completely irrational. And I'd also be reading lots of ebooks and forums, trying to find that magic answer, trying to find that reassurance, that compulsions, which was all just completely fueling the cycle. And yeah, it just wasn't really getting me anywhere. So I had that for about 4 or 5 years, I'd say. And I eventually came across OCD recovery in, I think it was the end of 2021. And I saw it on social media and I thought, bang, this is exactly like what I've got. So I started working with Rob, and I soon realised that all my obsessions and all my fears and everything like that was just completely irrational. I had to combine some had to combine rational emotive behavioural therapy. Sorry, that was what I was looking for. Obviously by Albert Ellis, which Rob and the team advocate for the OCD recovery. So I came across Rept and I started reading the book straight away. Myth of Self-Esteem, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable. That they done so many good things for me. Really helped me to dispute why being homosexual wouldn't be the end of the world. I know that it's not that bad because there are other people out there who are like homosexual who are happy. What could I still do? Even if I was, I could go to the gym, I could see my friends. It just wouldn't be the end of the world. Even if my friends rejected me, that still wouldn't be fatal. Like there's plenty of people out there who have other people not like them. You know, you look at footballers who get booed every week. It's just not the end of the world. And yeah, it was just really breaking down why that wouldn't be the end of the world. So in terms of the actual fear, the HOCD fear actually subsided quite quickly. I'd say in about 6 months. But what was really, really stubborn for me was the fear of fear. And it just for me just took so long to break down and really try and get under. Obviously fear in the moment, it does feel just so uncomfortable. It just feels almost intolerable. It's not easy. It's really not easy. I know it isn't. And in that moment, whilst it's there, you just want to push it away. You just want to fight it. You just want to be rid, all those things, try and work it out, try and be gone in the day. But as you know, that completely fuels a cycle. With fear, what I found useful was just to live alongside it. There's a passage in the book on the reading list called Last to Life by Paul David. He makes a point of living alongside it, not trying to get rid of it, giving yourself a break, not trying to put pressure on yourself to recover, but just truly living alongside it and welcoming it into your life. And when you do that and you just allow it to be there, the pressure goes off. You're not watching your anxiety sensations like a hawk. You're not really worrying about it if you feel like shit, because you can still do things, you can still have a life, you can still go to the gym, you can still see my friends. And in the end, you get to a point where you're indifferent about feeling different. And when you get to that point, you are really, really getting somewhere, because it's just irrational. That you're saying, when you have fear and you're fighting against it, you're saying that you shouldn't feel anxious and that you shouldn't feel discomfort. But that's completely irrational, because it doesn't say anywhere that you shouldn't. If that was the case and no one would feel anxiety, there would be no book by Paul David, or there'd be no book by Last of Life by Claire Weeks. There'd be none of those, because no one would have had anxiety. But loads of people have it. And there's also people out there who have far worse conditions. You know, you look at Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, one of the books in the reading list. He lived in the absolute worst conditions and he still managed to find some sort of happiness. So it really is just your perspective of it that fuels the event, right? If you can gradually, not compulsively, gradually dispute your beliefs, potentially once every few days, sometimes maybe more, sometimes maybe less, put your foot on the gas, off the gas, as Rob says, you'll get there. Just don't be compulsive, don't dispute in the moment, don't try and chase exposures as well. That was a massive thing for me. I thought that magic exposure would be there if I just done that it would get me better just by doing that magic exposure. But no, that's where fear has you that's where fear has you tricked, if you like. You think there's a magic exposure there, but you know, exposures do run their course after a little while. And yeah, you do get there. It's very tough, but it takes time. You've got to give it a lot of time, and yeah, you'll get there in the end. And also as well, I'd say I had other sort of themes of OCD going on in the background too. So I had this real event and magic thinking OCD. So basically what happened was, I made up a lie about my granddad going to hospital a few years ago just to try and get out of doing something. We all tell lies as a human being. And I thought, if something happens to my granddad, it's my fault. So I just got really depressed over that. Completely irrational, just like completely beating myself up, calling myself a bad person, all these things. And like, when you really break that down as well, what was at play here was fear of being a bad person, which is completely irrational, because how someone is entirely bad or entirely good is just impossible. When you say someone's entirely bad, you're saying they've got no propensity to do good things. You're writing them off at that one moment in time. So you're saying that they've got no chance of doing good acts in the future, and you're saying that they're just 100% bad. Like, all their traits, deeds, acts, characteristics are all just bad. But it's just completely irrational. You can't say that someone is entirely bad. The only way someone's entirely bad if they're constantly doing bad acts, and have no way of doing good acts. So you're saying ever since they were born, essentially, they're doing bad things, but it's just irrational, right? Obviously, some acts are bad, some acts are good, but there's also acts where people would think that they're better at a point in time than another point in time. So someone might think that that's bad at a certain stage, and someone else might think that's actually not that bad. So it's all just down to perspective. Writing yourself off as a good and bad person just doesn't get you anywhere. Also, you're a fallible human, so it's going to be impossible for you to always act well and act badly. There's always going to be elements of both. So that's why it's called unconditional acceptance, because you accept yourself either way, whether you do good acts, whether you do bad acts, whether you perform well, whether you perform poorly. So when you really break that down, what a good and bad person is, that guilt that you have from doing something so-called bad just suddenly just starts to dissipate. And then a good one there as well was the fear of death. So even if I was at fault for someone's death, again, it's still not the end of the world. Death is powerless to do us much harm whilst we're alive, and powerless to do much harm whilst we're dead, because you're dead. So even death isn't 100% awful. It does take away the good aspects of life, it takes away the bad aspects of life. So when you really see that death isn't really the end of the world, it just brings down the heat of the OCD. When you really sort of break it down in a rational way, you can see that actually, it's actually not the end of the world. And just in terms of the death stuff there, what really helped me was looking at the teachings from Marcus Aurelius and the Stoicism. That really helps me to break down why death isn't the end of the world. And help to bring my mind back to a calmer state. And also as well, we talk about the whack-a-mole and OCD, where we've got loads of different themes that we're balancing. Excuse me. I also suffered a bit with ROCD, so I would go on dates, but I'd just be so vigilant looking at the other person. I'd be thinking, are they attractive enough? Do I like that attribute? Do I like that about them? They said this, they said that. Is that a red flag? So essentially what the fear is there is the fear of being in the wrong relationship. And what you need to look at is relationships are part of your life, but they're not your whole life. So even if I was in the wrong relationship, it wouldn't actually be the end of the world. So when you really break that down, you're not really sat there being scared about being with the wrong person, because even if you was, it's just not the end of the world. You could still have some kind of life. You could still eat nice food, go to the gym, listen to music, all that stuff. So yeah, there's we all probably have a lot of OCD themes going on at one go, but you just need to try and tackle it from the same viewpoint. Try and understand what you're really scared of, your worst case scenario, gradually breaking it down, and just being indifferent about feeling different. It doesn't matter if you feel crap. It's absolutely fine. It doesn't say anywhere that you shouldn't feel crap, you shouldn't have OCD. Accepting you have OCD is also a big thing as well. I think what really sobers you up is on your next spike, trying to pretend that you don't have it, or trying to pretend that you're all right, which is something that I did. It just doesn't get you anywhere. It only sobers you up and it brings you back to your next spike. And also you go on Instagram, you see OCD recovery there, and also you look to your bedside and you see a pile of books. Trying to play off that you don't have OCD and that you're not in this cycle just doesn't help you. You really just need to put the work in to try and get yourself better. And it's just so worth it. So I'm about 1.5 years down. I've still got a bit of work to do. I get the odd spike here and there from fear, the odd obsession, but it just doesn't come with the same heat like it used to. And for that, I'm just really grateful. My energy's starting to come back. I'm starting to sleep a lot better, a lot more motivated, which is really good. And yeah, you just have a lot more of a calmer and rational viewpoint on life. You just need to make sure you put the work in, give yourself a bit of time. Rob and Nick know how bad I was when I first came in, so I'm proof that if you can get to where I am now, then anybody could do it. It's going to take trial and error. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but with perseverance and that dedication, you will get there. You will. So hopefully this video gives you some inspiration and some just inspiration really, and give you the the leg up that you might need in your recovery journey, because it's out there, and life is really worth it, especially after you've been through this. The level of acceptance and rationality and humility going through the OCD recovery journey gives you is just amazing really, and it's just something you can carry forward with you for the rest of your life. So thanks guys, hopefully I'll be doing some more videos soon, but take care, take it easy.